What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of F1 Fantasy Pole Position. It is Tuesday, March 11th. F1 Fantasy is live. We are full steam ahead for the 2025 season. I am so pumped. If you didn't join me earlier, I did a live stream right as the game went live. There was some chaos involved, so I'm trying to keep it down, cleaner episode here, 15 minutes, 20 minutes kind of explaining the new rules, and then we're going to go through two lineups ahead of my Australian Grand Prix preview, which will be out tomorrow. So make sure that you like and subscribe, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are growing fast. Join the league. The code will be right up there on the next slide, and you can follow me on all social media at F1 Fantasy UM. But yes, the game is live. We are ready. Thunderbirds are go. I am very excited. This is the second episode that I've done today. I will do another one tomorrow, and then 2 deadline live streams this weekend. We are going to get into it. F1 Fantasy is back, and I am so ready to break it all down with you. But let's go ahead and look at these changes for 2025. 3-ish main changes for the game in 2025. Price algorithm changes, pit stop points, and disqualification penalties. This is going to be interesting, folks. I cannot wait to get into it. Lewis Hamilton can't wait to get into it either. He's already down in Australia, ready to go. And yeah, as you can see right here above my head, the code for the league, PV4WLMKTA04. We went through this on the live stream. It is not an O, it is a 0. Is that how you... A 0, but yeah. So I am very excited. There's already 2,000 people in the league, so if you want to be one of them, get in there. Let's get that league cranking up. I am very excited for the F1 Fantasy 2025 season. As you can tell, I'm just like jittery all over the place. So here we go, getting into it. Price algorithm changes, and we can't really do a price algorithm change without going into the driver prices. And that's what we've done over the last 24 hours or so. It wasn't really all the way there. I'm going to adjust this because it doesn't look all that great. Look, there's my head. There's my head a little bit more. So all 20 drivers got their prices. Lando Norris coming in at 29 million. He is tippy top of the drivers. Bortoleto down there at 6 million. But overall, wasn't too disappointed with what was going on with the prices here. And then Sainz and Albon were a little interesting because Williams was favored during testing. However, I'm not sure I can go there. 13.1, 12.0, gonna be tough to fit them in, as we're gonna see here, because yeah, pricing is tight this year in F1 Fantasy. It is going to be quite difficult to go. The meta from last 2024 is out the window. Scrap that. Do not think that you can keep up if you're going to be playing by 2024 rules, because there is a bunch of stuff for us to break down. I'm going to break down more of it on tomorrow's episode, Australia Grand Prix preview. So stick around. Make sure, like I said, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. There we go. Verstappen 28.4, Leclerc 25.9, Hamilton 24.2. A little interesting, 1.7 difference between him and Leclerc. We'll see if that is actually like valid or not after a couple of days of practice here down at Melbourne. Oscar Piastri at 23 million. He is interesting. He's the one that's been in the majority of my tinkers so far. I mean, it's literally been 4.5 hours, and yeah, I've made probably about 6 lineups. So we're going to get into it at the end of the episode. But if you don't have time for that, check the timestamps in the description below and just jump ahead to that if you want to see what my first reactions are for F1 Fantasy in 2025. Russell, Antonelli, Lawson all coming in here between 18 and 21 million. Touched on the Williams guys. Gasly, I really like. 11.8 million is just a weird price point. As you can see, like, he's definitely going to be better than Albon. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But then it's 2.2 million difference between Gasly and Tsunoda. That's a big chunk of money, unfortunately. So interesting there. I like Bortoleto. I love Behrman. I like Ocon. I'm kind of fond of Fernando Alonso as well. So lots to kind of get into here as we break down the prices. Constructor prices here, McLaren at 30 million, Kicksauber all the way down at 6.2. But if you're watching this on the day of the launch, you were probably following this. You're probably following me on X at F1 Fantasy UN, where I was tweeting about it, on TikTok, F1 Fantasy UN, where I was making videos about it. So you probably already know this. McLaren 30, Ferrari 27.1, Red Bull 25.2, Mercedes 22.7, all that fun stuff. You know what it is, but you want to hear what I'm trying to break down. So pricing algorithm for 2025, 2 tiers. Tier A, 20 million and above. Tier B, 20 million and below. And the price changes are going to be based on a 3-race rolling average. So 33% for the last race, 33% for the second to last race, 33% for the third to last race. But what about Australia, I hear you say? Yes, I know. I'm still slightly trying to get my head around this, but I believe that Australia is going to be the average of all the drivers and then put their price in there, and we're going to get these like kind of normalized points, and that's how they're going to do that one. And then after China's going to count for 50% and Australia's going to count for 50%. But once we get through the third race of the season in Japan, we will have the regular pricing algorithm for the 2025 season. Really interested to see how that goes, see if we get any clarification over the next couple of days before the deadline live stream. But yes, things are different. It is not predetermined like how you do it on the rest of the field. It's going to be how you kind of do related to your price and stuff like that. And it explains it a little bit better here. So shout out to F1 Fantasy Tools Discord. Like, my mind was blown watching these people go to work last night and this morning. So shout out to JW, Zay Chronicles, Dan Smith KY, and Leapsfrog. I know the F1 Fantasy Hub, or Formula Fantasy Hub, Rob already gave you guys a shout out, but I just wanted to give out one more because you guys absolutely crushed it. The example on the screen right now, if you're listening on the podcast side, you gotta flip over to the YouTube channel because you gotta like look at this. It's gonna be very hard to break down. So Leclerc scores 36 points in Australia. His 3-race rolling average is 36. He gets it seems like it's going to be great, good, poor, and terrible is how we are labeling this as of right now. He's an A-tier asset. Great performance. He's going to go up 0.3. Next race, he scores 21. So his 3-race rolling average is now 29. Still going to be okay. Going to go up. And as you can see here, once we get past the third race in Japan, this is going to get a lot easier for everyone to understand. And I'll break it down a lot better for the Australian Grand Prix preview and the deadline live stream. 2 hours before qualifying locks, I will be live at 4 o'clock in the morning, Germany time, as we go through our lineup decisions. So make sure to join me there on Saturday morning and Friday night, wherever you are in the world. Maybe Saturday afternoon if you're in Australia, that kind of thing. So I will be there as well. But this is the one thing that I need to get more in tune with. It makes sense in my head once we get through the first 3 races, I can get it there. But Australia and China will be the kind of difficult ones. So from what I've read on F1 Fantasy Tools Discord, which if you like F1 Fantasy Tools, you should, and I don't have it here, but there is a promo coming up. So make sure that you stick around for that promo. They are doing a great job breaking it down. So I would highly suggest you go in there and kind of figure it out for yourself. I know you kind of came to this video for me to help you with that, but the pricing algorithm is something that's still in the early stages. So we don't fully have confirmation of what's going to happen. 3-race rolling average, that's confirmed by the game, but how they treat that is kind of up in the air as of now. Moving over to pit stop points. This one is simple. I can get my brain around this. So in 2024, F1 Fantasy awarded pit stop points to constructors. If you had the fastest pit stop for a race, you got 10 points. You got the second fastest pit stop, you got 5 points. You had the third fastest pit stop, you got 3 points. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. However, only rewarded 1, 2, or 3 teams every weekend. It was kind of what are we going to do here? 2025, though, hold up. All the teams can get the points. It's going to be fantastic. So this is based on 2025. However your constructor does, whatever their fastest pit stop time from the race is, that is how many points they can score on the right here. So I don't really like listing off numbers, but I'm going to do it here. If you're over 3 seconds for your pit stop, you're going to get nil points for your constructor. If you go 2.5 to 2.99 seconds, you're going to get 2 points. 2.2 to 2.49 seconds is 5 points. 2 seconds flat to 2.19 seconds is 10 points. And under 2 seconds is 20 points, which is huge. So now we're going to be watching like the pit stops just as much as the race sometimes. And it puts such a huge emphasis on the constructor. It kind of has shifted my whole thinking on how I'm going to make my lineups. Like, I feel like there was a time yesterday where I was like, well, maybe like Haas will be kind of sneaky good in the constructors. Maybe I can build some budget with them. But considering that the budget for 2024 is all the way out the window, and we get these pit stop points in 2025, like Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, hello, under 2 seconds, 20 points. Also, the fastest pit stop of the race, of the entire race, gets a bonus 5 points. And if you break the world record held by McLaren for Qatar a couple of seasons ago, 1.8 seconds, you get another 15 points. So yeah, constructors are going to be super duper important in 2025 F1 Fantasy. There is no doubt about it. Do not skimp on your constructors for the 2025 season. And it's going to cause some lineup headaches right off the bat. But who was good in 2024? Red Bull came out on top of the DHL Fastest Pit Stop Award, 552 points. McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, Alpine, Kick Sauber, Aston Martin, Haas, and Williams. So that's just from the DHL standings. I'm not entirely sure how they do all that there, but sorry if my head is blocking the league code, by the way. I will send a link and the code in the description below. So if you want to join the league while you're watching this, just click one of those. You'll be good to go. But that's where the 2024 came out here. And shout out to Cami on the F1 Fantasy Tools Discord. I was supposed to have a shout out down here. Sorry if I messed that up. I had it on there, I swear. They added up all the points, and this is what they came out with. So this is a little loosey-goosey math. I mean, but what do you expect on F1 Fantasy Pole Position? That is like a weekly trend that we do here. So put in my trust in Cami here. So thank you for that. I really appreciate the table. Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, Racing Bulls, Alpine, Mercedes, Kick Sauber, Aston Martin, Williams, Haas. That would have been the standings if the 2025 rules applied to the 2024 season. As you can see here, Red Bull, 301 points, McLaren, 250 points, Ferrari, 179 points. Mercedes, though, behind Racing Bulls, behind Alpine, barely ahead of Kick Sauber as well. So that really gives me like some pause with going with Mercedes, because I was kind of like hyping them up over the last few days. Admittedly, I was like, it's going to be cool. It's going to be rainy in Melbourne. Silver Arrows are going to be flying through the field like budget building kings. Here we go. But with pit stop points being so important right now, I just don't think we can go there. I'm out on Mercedes, and I'm kind of locked into having one of these top three constructors, Red Bull, McLaren, and Ferrari. Two of the top three constructors in my lineup. And it's going to be mighty interesting where that makes the rest of our driver lineup go, because they are quite expensive, as we just saw earlier in the episode. But it's interesting here because average is 12.54 points for Red Bull, 10.42 points. This is just pit stop points, guys. This is just pit stop points. And then, as you can see here, I've underlined and italicized the top three from each category. So Red Bull, McLaren, and Ferrari, 1, 2, 3 in total points, average points, and their 2025 price is the most expensive as well. But points per million here, it kind of starts to get a little bit in there, like kind of makes you think a little bit. Racing Bulls, 0.83 points per million based on their 2025 price. Alpine, 0.63 points per million based on their 2025 price. And Kick Sauber, who would have thunk it? 0.74 points per million. They had a pretty bang up second half of the season. They had the embarrassment in the first couple of races, the 58-second pit stop or whatever, but they really got it going in the second half. I think they had a couple of fastest pit stop races, maybe just one. But like, look at that compared to Aston Martin, Williams, Haas. So you never know. But as of right now, the top three, Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, and especially with Mercedes, have been saying for a couple of years now, our equipment, we haven't invested, our equipment is pretty bad. So yeah, Mercedes as a constructor, no go for me. But that might result in one of their drivers coming into our lineups. Like I said, don't have time for that. Check the timestamps in the description below and jump ahead because we will talk about it down there. Moving ahead, so who would have had the biggest difference? Who would have been the biggest gainers? Obviously, more pit stop points are up for grabs, so it's a little bit skewed. But as you can see here, the red column are their 2024 totals. The black column is their 2025 or their 2024 totals based on the 2025 rules. Red Bull, huge jump, 166 to 301. Ferrari from 77 to 179. McLaren, 87 to 250. Alpine, a huge jump. RB, a huge jump. Kick Sauber, a pretty good jump as well. Mercedes is all right as well, but yeah, Williams, Aston Martin, Haas, but yeah, Red Bull, like, really makes you think. Like, they are the third cheapest or third most expensive constructor as of right now, but they're behind McLaren, behind Red Bull. They're traditionally a fantastic pit stop team. They did lose Callum Nichols over the winter. I heard Terry on the Fantasy Formula talking about that earlier today. A great episode. You definitely go check that out. That like helped me a lot. So if this isn't doing the job for you, go over to the Fantasy Formula, check that out. They had a fantastic breakdown of the rules. And as you saw that ticker? Do you see that ticker just go up? Yeah, like I said, 1547. So if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, do that. Get me above 1550 before the Australian Grand Prix comes out tomorrow. That would be mighty helpful on my end. But like I said, shout out Cami, crushed it for me on this. Really appreciate their help in F1 Fantasy. Final thing that we're going on to here is going to be the disqualification penalties. That has changed a little bit. So the example I took here is from Nico Hülkenberg from the Brazilian Grand Prix in 2024. Last season, he scored -42. Was not a good Sunday. I believe Marshall touched his car and he got a black flag and got disqualified, -25. Now they've moved the disqualification penalty over to the constructor because traditionally that's not really a driver's fault. Like that's a setup thing, or like Haas last season, both their rear wings and Monaco were illegal. So both drivers got hit with a disqualification penalty, which was not exactly fair. So as you can see here on the left, it's Hülkenberg with the 2024 rules for disqualification. And on the right, it's Hülkenberg with the 2025 rules for disqualification. So he would have gone from -42 to -17. Haas would have stayed at -29 each. But I think that's fair. You want to punish the constructor because usually they are the ones that cause a disqualification. Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, the double disaster class in Monaco last season. Nico Hülkenberg with the Marshall, that was just kind of a weird one-off. But overall, I agree with this. I like this rule, like don't punish the drivers too much. And I believe I was watching the Fantasy Formula episode and Adam was saying that if Hülkenberg didn't have this disqualification penalty, like if he had scored a -17 instead of the -42 that he got labeled with in Brazil, he would have finished as P12 in the F1 Fantasy standings compared to P15 that he did in the 2024 standings. Now it's time for the reveals of the lineups and stuff. I actually have a lineup right here, but I'm not really going to go with that. We're gonna switch this up here, guys. Like I said, above me is actually the deadline lineup times, and as you're going to see on this screen here, 3 days, 13 hours, and 10 minutes from now. So this is what I had right off the bat. This is what my heart told me when I loaded the app, when I wasn't like, remember when the app was loading and it like wasn't working? I was like, I gotta get a team and blah, blah, blah. So off the bat, I went with Piastri, Behrman, Ocon, Duhan, Bortoleto with Ferrari and Mercedes. But remember all that stuff we were just talking about? Yeah, like not feeling Ferrari or Mercedes right now. So let's get rid of these guys and let's go back to the basics with 100 million. McLaren, Red Bull. That is going to be your strongest constructor pairing. It's going to be the most expensive, as you can see, over half your budget. You only got 44.8 million to go. So what does that leave us with? Well, let's go here. Let's go down, 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 and fill in like the 3 cheapest assets. Bortoleto, Hadjar, Hülkenberg. Not great. 26.2 million. We already cannot afford Lando Norris or Max Verstappen. You can't even afford Leclerc or any driver really in above 20 million. So you're looking at like a Kimi Antonelli or a Liam Lawson here. But so we'll just throw in Antonelli here as we go along. So yeah, let's add him in there. That leaves us 7.8 million, which I don't hate, because then I can add Esteban Ocon, and then I can take Hadjar over here and add Ollie Behrman. Now, this is fairly uncomfortable. You don't have a single driver from the top 3 teams. You don't have Liam Lawson, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Oscar Piastri, or Lando Norris, and you're riding with 2 Sauber and 2 Haas, who the game think is 2 of the worst constructors in the game. Very, very scary. Don't like that. Antonelli as a rookie as well in his first F1 race where it might rain, but you do have the 2 strongest constructors in the game. So if that's where you want to go, I don't hate it. There's obviously a little bit of wiggle room here. Like, you could go from Antonelli to Lawson. You're doubled up on Red Bull, that sort of stuff. Then you can get out of the Hulkenberg. You could go down from Hulkenberg to like a Hadjar if you don't want to be exposed to double Sauber, which I don't mind either. Double Haas, I'm pretty okay with. I'm pretty on board with the Haas boys altogether. The one thing to consider about Liam Lawson is he's actually the only of the 6 rookies, even though F1's saying there's 5 rookies. Of the 6 rookies, he's actually the only one that has not driven in Australia. All the other rookies have had some experience in F2, the lower categories. So it's just something to think about as he heads into his first weekend in the Red Bull. So that's where my head's at. I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to go with Liam Lawson. However, this is what you're going to be looking at if you go with the 2 strongest constructors in McLaren and Red Bull. But let's just play around with this a little bit. Let's say we don't want to go with McLaren. Let's say we want to do Red Bull and Ferrari. That gives us a little bit more money that we're working with here. We can get up to like a George Russell. As you can see, let me scroll down here a little bit. So that gives us George Russell, gives us 0.5 million to go. You could go up from Bortoleto here to his teammate, Nico Hulkenberg, if that makes you feel a little bit better. Russell is a little bit of a steadier presence in your F1 fantasy team. I wouldn't really have any qualms about having him on my roster, but that is like where we're at here. Like, you can go down to a Mercedes if you'd like, and that gets you up into the Oscar Piastri range. But the bottom line is, if you want 2 of the top 4 constructors, you're going to have to ride with 4 of these traditional C-tier assets if you want any one of these like premier assets in the top 4 teams. It's just not gonna work. So you'd have to go down to like a Williams or an Alpine or something like that. And as I've been banging on about in this episode, like, the constructors are like so important to this year's game that you have to get 2 of the top 4, in my opinion, and probably 2 of the top 3. I don't really have a lot of interest in Mercedes, which is terrifying, because then I'm going to be riding with someone not like, I don't mind the Red Bull Ferrari combo, because then I can get George Russell in. That's not bad at all. And then I can kind of play around with this a little bit. I could go Hadjar down to Bortoleto, but yeah, like, this class of driver over here, if you're going with the top 4, let's see here. Sorry. Let me get this going here. If you're going with one of these, this tier right here, this Sainz, Albon, Gasly, Sonoda, Alonso area is like, you can't get it. You can't get to those guys. So I'm going to play around with this a little bit more tonight. I'll have more lineups ready for the Australian Grand Prix preview, which will be out this time tomorrow. So make sure you like and subscribe to the episode. Like I've been telling you, probably too much in this episode, but it's been just so much fun with all the F1 fantasy content today. So any likes and subscribes, I would greatly appreciate, as my subscriber count has just disappeared. So that's great. Like I said, I'm learning this new system. Oh wait, there we go. Boom, right there. 1547. So that's where we're at. But yeah, that is the first kind of regular episode of the 2025 season, the kind of how to play guide. I said it was going to be 15 or 20 minutes. I always lie. I always go over. I can't help it. I'm rambling on all the time. But I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Like I was saying, I was promising you guys that there would be a promo code here. So let me find it. Where did it go? Here we go. So yeah, if you want to subscribe to F1FantasyTools.com, their premium service, which is fantastic, I'm a subscriber of it, you can use the code UN50 and you'll get 50% off your first month with the promo code UN50. And yeah, like I said, like and subscribe. Follow me on X at F1FantasyUN. But that is really going to do it for this episode. I will be back, like I said, this time tomorrow, Australian Grand Prix. We'll be back into the regular swing of things. A deadline live stream and a cool down room episode after the Grand Prix. I am so excited that F1 Fantasy is back. I hope you are too. So once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time.